Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're treating the quest for the perfect muscle-building chicken breast not as some simple, everyday recipe, but as a highly classified, scientific mission. We're literally going to look at the thermodynamics of your meal prep.
Okay, so let's just dive right into this. We all need high-quality fuel for muscle recovery, right? But why on earth do we so readily accept terrible, dry, literally unchewable chicken as just the inevitable cost of eating healthy? You know, the exact kind I'm talking about. The meal prep that requires a gallon of water just to force down. Well, it absolutely does not have to be this way, and science is going to show us exactly how to fix it.
Section 1. The quest for perfect protein. Our goal here is to secure a highly bioavailable, low-fat protein matrix that is absolutely essential for maximum muscle protein synthesis.
Section 2. The Maillard Citrus Conflict Protocol Alpha. This is where we address the absolute primary enemy of flavor when it comes to healthy cooking. So, the foundational chemistry of browning is all about the Maillard reaction. It's this beautiful chemical cascade between amino acids and reducing sugars that gives food that savory, golden crust we all absolutely crave. But here's the catch. It demands high heat and a completely dry surface. And this creates a massive conflict with lemon pepper chicken. Why? Well, because the citric acid that naturally occurs in lemon zest actually lowers the surface pH of the meat, which mildly inhibits that whole browning process.
This leads us directly to the ultimate solution. If you look at the wrong way to do this, dumping wet lemon juice straight onto raw chicken before baking, well, that added water and acid completely blocks the Maillard reaction. Instead of roasting, you end up inducing evaporative steaming. You're basically just steaming your chicken right there in the oven, giving you pale, sad meat. Instead, we have to look at the right way. You absolutely must thoroughly pat that raw chicken dry with a paper towel. Then apply a light olive oil lipid buffer, some coarse piperine pepper, salt, and use fresh lemon zest instead of the juice. This gives you that bright citrus profile without the extra moisture that ruins your perfect crust.
Moving right along to Section 3, Manipulating Structure and Heat. Time for protocols beta and gamma.
Now, a completely crucial point here is understanding the physical anatomy of the meat itself. Chicken breasts naturally form this uneven teardrop shape. If you just toss it in the oven like that, the thin, tapered end is going to severely overcook and dry out way before the thickest part even reaches a safe temperature. So to fix this, you literally have to physically pound a meat down to a uniform 3/4 of an inch using a meat mallet or a heavy pan. Uniform thickness equals uniform cooking. It's really that simple.
Once you've got it physically leveled out, we execute Protocol Gamma. Preheating your oven to exactly 400 degrees Fahrenheit hits the absolute thermodynamic sweet spot. Now, why exactly 400 degrees? Because it's hot enough to rapidly trigger that Maillard browning, which, remember, needs a surface temperature of over 300 degrees, but it manages to do so before the interior protein fibers have the time to completely seize up, denature, and violently expel all their cellular moisture. Basically, we're using heat as a strategic tool to lock in the hydration.
Section 4. The Pasteurization Curve Hack. Protocol Delta. This actually brings us right to the climax of our dossier, where we challenge those universally accepted, idiot-proof food safety rules.
Look, if you've ever worked in commercial food service, you know the rigid rule. Cook poultry to 165 degrees Fahrenheit. But those standard rules are honestly kind of misleading. The USDA's 165-degree metric is really just a temperature where bacterial lethality is instantaneous. It's a flash heat standard. But from a culinary standpoint, white meat's cellular moisture drops off a cliff the second the internal temperature crosses 160 degrees. The scientific standard, which was actually published by the USDA themselves, proves that holding chicken at 155 degrees for just 54.4 seconds achieves the exact same 7-log reduction. To put that in perspective, that is a 99.999999% kill rate of salmonella.
Because of this specific time-temperature pasteurization curve, your highly classified target extraction temperature from the oven is exactly 157 degrees Fahrenheit, literally not a single degree more.
So let's break down how this actually builds in practice. At 0 minutes, you pull the chicken from the oven the absolute millisecond your thermometer hits 157 degrees. Then you just set it on a cutting board. During a 5 to 10 minute rest, residual surface heat creates what we call carryover cooking. This slowly pushes the core temperature up to roughly 160 degrees. By simply resting the meat, you easily and effortlessly surpass that required 17-second holding time for absolute food safety pasteurization at that specific temperature.
Executing this precise thermal strike yields highly tender,
perfectly hydrated meat that efficiently shuttles those vital amino acids directly to your recovering muscle tissue. And to get this protein matrix functioning at its absolute peak, it really needs to be paired with a high-volume, 100 fluid ounce daily hydration baseline. You've got to have that water to maximize your recovery.
Section 5. The Red Team Counter-Analysis. It's time to examine the Red Team report regarding this whole protocol. Now we have to play devil's advocate for a second here. This is the pan-sear first argument presented by numerous food scientists and chefs. They argue that baking a skinless chicken breast at 400 degrees alone will never, ever produce a sufficient Maillard crust, simply because there's no rendered skin fat. Their counterproposal? They argue that a truly superior method mandates a 2-minute, extremely high-heat stovetop sear in a cast-iron skillet before moving the pan into the oven to finish. And hey, it's a completely valid point for those prioritizing a super thick crust above everything else.
However, we also need to perform a final bias check on these safety protocols. The traditional 165-degree rule is inherently biased toward idiot-proofing food safety for the general public. And let's be real, a lot of people are relying on poorly calibrated analog dial thermometers that look like they belong in the 1990s. Safely executing our 157-degree pasteurization poll is a rigorous scientific method, and it requires the precision of a highly accurate calibrated digital instant read thermometer. You simply cannot guess this stuff. You absolutely must measure it.
So armed with the laws of thermodynamics, advanced microbiology, and the necessity of precise culinary tools, I'll leave you with this final thought. Are you ready to finally abandon that blunt 165-degree rule, ditch the dry, rubbery meat that's holding back your meal prep, and upgrade to the scientific standard? The formula's right there waiting for you. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and happy cooking.